Rouhani Khazain, volume 17, page 419, and the book name was Arba'in, number 3. Now I'm going to read you the references. Anybody who wants, Mufti Sahib can show you those references as well. But I'll read those references for you so that you know why we believe what his age is. The very first reference where he talks about his age is the Rouhani Khazain, volume 17, page 177, and the book name is Kitab al-Briya. Kitab al-Briya is one of the books where Mirza Ghulam Qadiani talks about the history of his family, and he very keenly talks about the history of his family. In the footnotes, that's in particular in the footnotes, in the main text of the book, he is talking about his disputes with number of people, which include Atham and which include Dr. Martin Clark, and how the court proceedings went against him in number of cases. However, in the footnotes, he writes about his family, and on page 177 of volume 13 in Kitab al-Briya in Rouhani Khazain, I'll read you the English translation of that. He says, my autobiography is, his Urdu words are, ab mere zati swana ye hai. Which means, he says, this is my autobiography. I was born, that's Mirza Qadiani is saying, I was born 1839 or 1840 during the last period of Sikh rule. The Sikhs were the rulers of Punjab, and he says this was near the end of their rule when I was born. That's why he says his date of birth is either 1839 or 1840. I can tell you, and you can check on the Wikipedia or Google, that the Sikh rule period started from 1799 and it ended in 1849. So the Sikh rule period is from 1799 to 1849. And Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is saying he was born at the end of Sikh rule, which we believe that the last 20% is from 1840 to 1849. And he's very specific about that. He is giving a reference of historical events, which no one can deny. He goes further and he says, और मैं 1857 में 16 बरस का या 17वें वर्ष में था. This is his writing. He says, in 1857, I was 16
मैं
years
हवाला
old,
दिखाने लगा हूँ,
or
स्क्रीन बड़ी
I
कर
was
दें.
Yeah, that's the reference you can see. It's the Kitab al-Briya, page 177, Rouhani Khazain, volume 13. So he says that in 1857, I was 16 years old, or I was in the beginning of my 17th year. Now, if he was 16 years old, you take 16 from 1857, it shows that he was born in 1841, actually. However, if he was 17, he was in 17th year of his life, he was born in 1840. So if someone has to say almost accurately when Mirza Qadiani was born, 1840 is the date. And he is telling this date of birth with references, with historical references. 1857 is a very important year of history. This is the year when the British government and British forces removed the Mughal Empire, and Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last emperor, was detained and was sent to another country. And he died in prison, basically, after that.
He was sent to Rangoon.
Rangoon.
Yeah, he was sent to Rangoon. That's where he died.
Yes. He was imprisoned in Rangoon and he died while he was in the prison. The more important thing about 1857 is that his father, so-called father, and his elder brother Ghulam Qadir were recruited in British Army, and he was not recruited because he was less than 18-year-old, and he says he was either 16-year-old or he was in the beginning of his 17th year. So he is giving two very important historical events which no one can deny. We will look at the further evidence that what he says when he was born. So I'll show you another reference from the same book, Kitab al-Briya. It's again the Qadiani volume 17 and page 192. And here again in the footnotes, which is called Vikiya Hashiya, here he says, मेरी उम्र करीबन 34 या 35 बरस की होगी जब हजरत वालिद साहब का इंतकाल हुआ. He says, my age would be 34 or 35 years when my father died. I've got the photo picture of his father's grave. And on his father's grave, the date of death of his father is written June 1876. If you take away 34 from 1876, it comes to 1842. And if you take away 13 from 1876, it comes to 1841. He is very specific about his age. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is 100% positive that when he was born. And he's giving you the references no one can deny. Historical references he is giving you. So look at this reference now. He says when his father died, he was 34 or 35 years old, and his father died in 1876. So he was either born in 1842 or 1841, according to this reference. So we believe that 1840 is a very reasonable year when he was born. That's what most of the historians would take as an accurate year of birth. Now, I'll give you another reference. This reference is from a famous Qadiani newspaper. It's called Al-Hakam. And the newspaper is of 31st July 1901. It's important date. The newspaper is from 31st July 1901, and it's the page 7 of this newspaper. And he has been giving statement in the court of law. And his words written in Urdu are, Allah Ta'ala hazir hai, main sach kahunga, which means Allah Almighty is a witness, I will speak truth. That's what he is saying. Allah Almighty is a witness, I will speak truth. Then he says, Meri umar 60 saal ke kareeb hai. He says, I am nearly 60-year-old. His words, that Allah is a witness, Allah Almighty is a witness, I will speak truth, my age is nearly 60 years. So this is his statement in the court of law. Again, I will give you this reference. It's 31st July 1901, page 7, and the newspaper is called Al-Hakam. If you take 60 away from 1901, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says he was born in 1840 or 41. Can't be any year other than 1840 or 41, which is accurate. And he is giving you a reference, and he is giving a statement in the court of law when he was born. Now, let's look at another reference. That reference is very important. We are talking about the date of birth of a man who was obsessed with his age. He says in another volume of Khazain. It's the Khazain volume 15. It's page 486. It's at the end of the page 485 and beginning of the page of 486. And the book name is Riyakul Qulub. This is the fourth reference I am giving you about his age. What he says is, I'll read his original words. He says, और मेरा तोआम पैदा होना और अव्वल लड़की का और बाद में उसी हमल से मेरा पैदा होना तमाम गांव के बुजुर्ग साल लोगों को मालूम है. He said, his birth as a twin, Tawam is a twin. He says, and his birth as a twin, and firstly the girl was born, and after her, from the same pregnancy, he was born, is a fact which was known to the elderly people of all the villages in Qadian and around Qadian. He says his birth is a famous event. He was born twin. First the girl was born, then he was born from the same pregnancy, and this fact is known to all the elderly people in and around Qadian in several villages. That's the statement of Mirza Qadian. And further on he goes, और जनाने वाली दाई की तहरीरी शहादत मेरे पास मौजूद है. He said, I have got a written witness of my midwife who did the delivery. Where is it, Qadianis? Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is saying he has got a written statement from the midwife who delivered him. You see, that is the obsession of that man. So, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani never ever wrote or said in any of his books that he was born before 1839 or 1840. He never said. He was very consistent about his date of birth, and he says that he was born in 1840 or 41, according to all the statistics and the evidence I have shown you so far. Now, I will briefly tell you what's the evidence Qadiani people have nowadays, because they say he was born in 1835. Initially, they said he was born in 1832. That's a very funny thing.
Mr. Doctor, will you add with this the way he was born? He mentioned that he has a kind of a whole kind of a video thing that who got out the first from that, and then he followed, and where his head was stuck.
Yeah.
That's very very important thing to be known.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, our brother has mentioned that when Mirza Qadiani, I've read you the reference, and in that particular reference, which I've read, is in the Quran, volume 15, page 486, and the book is Riyakul Qulub. He actually says he was born twin, and the girl was born, and after that, from the same pregnancy, he was born, and this fact was known to all the elderly people in and around Qadian. He claims he was a famous birth. Now our brother is saying in another place, in another book, he says, the girl was born first, and then when he was born, his head was in between the legs of his sister, who was named Jannat and died few days later. So the people, whatever people make out of it, that's what our brother wanted to mention that, and not today, another day, if some Qadiani wanted to know that why the people mentioned that his head was in the legs of his sister, we will talk about that. But the important thing today is that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is consistent about his date of birth. He says he was born in and around 1840 and no earlier than that. If he was born in 1840, he died at the age of 68, nowhere near 80. This might be one of the reasons, but there is an important reason why Qadiani's hide his date of birth. So, what we have seen from Mirza Qadiani is he's giving you a very important reference points which makes his statement about his date of birth very reliable. First, he said he was born in the end period of Sikh rule, which was from 1799 to 1899. Secondly, he said a very important historical point that when in 1857, when his father and brother was recruited to the British Army to fight against Muslims, he was 16 or 17 years old, no older than 17, otherwise he would have been recruited himself. So we cannot ignore these two important historical milestones he is referring to. Thirdly, he gives another very important reference point for his birth, and that reference point is when his father died, he was 34 or 35 years old. On the grave of his father, which is in Qadian, it's written he died in June 1876. So again, he is claiming that at the time of death of his father, this is 34 or 35 years old man telling about his date of birth. He said when his father died, he was 34 or 35, and if you take 34 out of 1876, he was born in 1842, or if you take 35 out of 1876, he was born in 1841. He never claimed that he was born in 1830s at all. And then the most important thing to remember is that he said he had a certificate or a testimony written by the midwife who delivered him. What else you need, Qadianis? Liars? And now we say that why Qadiani claimed that he was born either in 1832 or 1835. I will read to you and I'll give you the reference, and this is the reference from Siratul Mahdi, which is the biography or the traditions of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. It's on page 820 and it's volume 3. What they call in Urdu is Sasom, page 820, and Siratul Mahdi. The tradition number is 965. And I'll read from the beginning. It says, खाकसार अर्ज करता है कि मियाँ मिराजुद्दीन साहब उमर ने हजरत मसीह की तारीख पैदाइश के मुतल्लिक अल-फजल अखबार मोरखा 3 अगस्त 1937 में एक मजमून छाया कराया. He's saying that one of the men called Mirajuddin Umar published an article in Al-Fadl newspaper on 3rd of August 1937. And in this article, he writes, those people who have lived and have had the time where they had a company of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Of course, they write his name, Masih Maud, or whatever they want to call him. He says,
here's something. How you translate Masih or Maud into English language, because that's very important.
It's a promised Messiah. The Qadianis have done the translation. Masih Maud means promised, and Masih means Messiah. So Masih Maud means promised Messiah. So that's what they believe.
So is he referring? Yeah, is he referring that to the Jesus, son of Mary, peace be upon them? Is he referring to them, or is something different?
You keep your question, otherwise people won't understand the point what we are trying to highlight. We'll talk about it, that whether he is the Jesus Christ or Isa ibn Maryam al-Islam or not. So we are talking about his date of birth at the moment. Why now I have shown you the references that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is adamant to say he was born in 1840 or after, whereas Qadianis are adamant to say he was born either in 1832 or 1835. Nowadays, they claim that he was born in 1935. We have already given the references. Mirza Qadiani has the historical, undeniable references, and he even takes the event of death of his father and talks about his age, which I believe is a very, very accurate version of his age. Now look at the evidence what the Qadianis present. Qadiani here on the tradition 965, they are saying that he used to say, i.e. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, he used to say about his age that when he was born, it was month of Agan. Hagan is one of the Punjabi version of months, whatever month it was. Uh, and remember, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has never talked about the age in any other calendar apart from Gregorian calendar, which is the calendar started with the birth of Jesus Christ, Isa alayhi wassalam, and this is the year 2023 finishing. And he always talked about this Christian or Gregorian calendar. I don't know why these Qadianis are so fraudulent that they want to deviate from the reference which Mirza Qadiani is saying. And they said he used to say he was born in the month of Hagan. Look, the evidence of Qadiani that he was born in 1835 or 32, evidence is that I heard that the Mirza Qadiani was saying, oh my God, I was born in the Agan month. And then says, it was the Friday when I was born. Look at the evidence, rubbish evidence Qadianis are presenting. He says, I was born, it was the Friday, and that was the late night when I was born. And according to the lunar calendar, it was the 14th night, what we call in Urdu Chaudhwira. It was the 14th night of the moon. That is the evidence Qadianis are rely on. Oh, I heard Mirza Ghulam Qadiani saying that he was born in the month of Pagan, and that was the Friday, and it was the 14th night according to the lunar calendar. That's not an evidence. That's a hearsay. And Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is giving an evidence about his birth, which is very, very specific and very strong evidence. Then he further goes, यही बात आखिरी मुकदमे हजरत डॉक्टर मुफ्ती सादक साहब ने अपनी किताब जिक्र हबीब के सफ़ा नंबर 239 पर लिखी. The same thing is written by, and he was not a doctor of any kind. He was neither a medical doctor nor he had the PhD or any title of doctorate. It's a total lie. He was Mufti Muhammad's father, and he was not even a Mufti, remember. He wasn't a Mufti like our Mufti Sahib who is a religious scholar. He was not a Mufti of any kind either. He says he has written a book called Zikr Habib, and this evidence he has written on page 239. On the ground of this evidence, Qadiani say Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is a liar and he is telling a lie about his date of birth. I think anyone who has got even a smallest sanity in his head, he would say Qadianis are out of order and out of their mind. Then he further goes on that who is the narrator of this tradition is his so-called son. He wasn't his real son. His name was Bashir, Mirza Bashir. And he's writing these things. He would love to call him Bashir MA. MA is the qualification, is Master of Arts of some kind, probably he had. He says, although I remembered this thing, however, when I studied the Zikr Habib, the book written by Mufti Sadak recently, then I started investigating it. Now look at what kind of man he is. He said he didn't believe the evidence, the rock solid evidence. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani himself said, he said, I had a Jantri Mantri which was 125-year Jantri which was written by Mirza Bashir. And he said, I looked into it and I thought he was born on 1247, and Mirza never said anything about the Hijri year. He always talked about Gregorian calendar. This is the deviation we present to the people who are Qadianis. Look at the evidence. I will tell you the page number again, and that's the page number 820, Siratul Mahdi, volume 3. And it is such a rubbish evidence which nobody will believe in his right state of mind. He said, according to this calculation, he was born on 17th February 1832. I have shown you the Mirza Ghulam Qadiani references. He's nowhere near that. Later on, again, on the same evidence, which is totally rubbish evidence, they started saying, oh no, he was born in 1835. Now, why they changed their mind? I'll give you a reference of another book. It's a book written by Abdur Rahim Dard, who was the Imam of the mosque in London in Fazl Mosque at Grayson Road. On page 50, he said, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's elder brother Mirza Ghulam Qadir died at the age of 15 in 1883. If you take 50 out of 1883, he was born in 1833. And Mirza Qadiani has written in his books and in his memoirs that he was 8 or 9 years older than him. If he died in 1833, you add 8 into it, it will become 1841. And Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was spot on about his date of birth, which the Qadianis denied. And somebody told Mirza Bashir, oh, look, if you make Mirza Ghulam Qadiani born in 1832, he was born a year before his elder brother, who was 8 years older than him. That would be the most funny thing. So he said, oh my God, what happened? He said, we will make it 1835. So that's what the Qadiani says that his date of birth is, which is totally rubbish. There is no evidence whatsoever they have got. They are making a fool of you just to trick into the fact, number one, that he was more than 74 years old when he died, which is untrue. He was not even near 70. He died at the age of hardly 68 when he died and left this world. Anyway, that's not the question. The second most important thing, if you make some investigation and which will strike you very heavily, is this, that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani version of date of birth, which is 1840 or 1841, is hidden because of one very important fact. I refer you to the Wikipedia. If you open the Wikipedia and write Mirza Ghulam Murtaza, which Mirza Qadiani claimed was his father, under occupation, and his occupation is written in a box, it says he was in service with the Sikh army as a commander, but he was Hawaldar, what we call a sergeant. But Qadiani liked to boast about everything. Anyway, that's not the question. His period of service is written 1818 to 1849. He served in the Sikh army. Now I'll give you another reference. If you go to Google and you write the first Anglo-Afghan war, the war between the English people and Afghans, under that you will see that war was between 1838 and 1842. If you look under the causes of war, it will clearly tell you that the Afghani people wanted to attack, and they did attack partially on Punjab, on Maharaja Ranjit Singh time, and they wanted to occupy Punjab, and Punjab was under threat from that. As a result, Sikh army occupied the Peshawar and stationed their forces there. Then they made an agreement with the British forces of that time, and they asked British people to help them to stop Afghan, and the British people presented a solution that if Sikh army goes with them, they will defeat the Afghan army, which was not a regular army, and they will install the king of Afghanistan, whose name was Shuja, back, and they will depose Dost Muhammad Khan, who was the Emir of Kabul at that time. So they agreed, both Punjab army, the Sikh army, in which Ghulam Murtaza, his so-called father, was employed from 1818 to 1849 until the last day of Sikh empire, the Sikh rule. They left Punjab in 1838, September time or near there. And then they were away from Punjab until 1842. It's a very long distance between Afghanistan and Punjab and Qadiani. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's so-called father cannot be in Qadian if he was in service with the Sikh army. So you have to accept the fact that between 1838 and 1842, Mirza Ghulam Qadir was away fighting in Afghanistan, which they did successfully initially, although later on Dost Muhammad Khan again reoccupied and deposed the king.
You mean Mirza Ghulam Murtaza?
Mirza Ghulam Murtaza, yeah, he was in Afghanistan between 1838 and 1842. If Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is born in 1840, he is not a son of Mirza Ghulam Murtaza. That is one of the basic reasons. This is the basic reason Qadiani deny that his age, which is proved by the strongest evidence of the history, is wrong. Because if they accept the statement of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani that he was born in 1842, about which he gives the most solid references of the timeline of history, and even he relates it to the event of his father's death, then Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is proven not to be the child of Mirza Ghulam Murtaza, because he was away between 1838 and 1842. Mirza is born in 1840. If you read in Quran, those who are claimant of the false prophethood, they are called Zanim. And one of the meaning of the Zanim, which is written in Tafsir Ibn Kathir as well, by Abu Umad Ibn Kathir, one of the most credible Mufassir of Quran, has written that the people, the false claimants of prophethood, are Zanim, and Zanim is a person whose father is unknown. Mirza Ghulam Qadir father is unknown by the evidence of history. According to Quran, he is a Zanim, a man with no known father. And a Zanim cannot be a prophet. If any Qadiani has got a word against it or can prove otherwise, please come to this broad. Otherwise, be known, and otherwise note this fact down. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is not a son of Mirza Ghulam Murtaza. He is a Zanim person.
So, in other words, if I say for for people of English, is that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was a bastard child of what was his mother name, Gsiti, or I don't know what was his other name. What was his Chirag Bibi? So he was not related to Maryam or anything. He was just child of somebody, but he was not the child to whom his mother was married, which was Mirza Ghulam Murtaza, who was stationed in Afghanistan, maybe like 1,000 miles away. So he was there, and he was born by some. He claimed himself that he's a Majun Mushakkal, that's something like a mixture of things of different nationalities.
That's a different. We don't want to spread the topic. We want to stay on the topic. What we are saying that the evidence Mirza Ghulam Qadiani present about his date of birth is far more solid and very, very credible. He even goes as far as that he had his midwife who delivered him to write a piece of paper for him when he was born, Where is that piece of paper? I invite all the Qadianis and come and deny this fact that he was not the son of Mirza Ghulam Murtaza and he was a Zanim according to Quran, the one whose father is unknown. That's the reason Qadianis, your cult, hide his date of birth, to hide the fact that his father is unknown. Now, that's one of the things. The second question, very briefly, we want to address today is why we talk about his death. Now, the Qadianis are kind of come round to us. Why do you want to talk about his death? And somebody has died. And I have heard one of the ex-Qadianis, he came round. His name was Dr. Izaz Khan. He's from Scotland, and I saw his interview, and he was saying, oh, it's not a very good thing to talk about the death of people who have died and how they have died. That's not true. I want to tell every Qadiani why we talk about the death of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. There is a reason for it. And I'm going to read a verse of Holy Quran for you. And I'm going to pull out the standardized translation for that so that we don't make a mistake in translating that particular verse.
डॉक्टर साहब हमारा 1 घंटे से ज्यादा टाइम तकरीबन हो गया है.
हो गया, जायद हो गया.
10:30 बजे शुरू हुआ था ना?
नहीं, अभी आज लेट शुरू.
जी ठीक है, चलें.
हाँ, बस ये थोड़ा सा खत्म करके फिर हम इसे खत्म कर देते हैं आज के लिए. तो I'm gonna read you the one of the verses of Surah Inam. In Surah Inam, this is the verse 93 of Surah Inam, and this verse is very important, and I'm gonna read you the translation of this verse as well, so that you know what's written in it. The verse is, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو قال أوحي إلي ولم يوحى إليه شيء ومن قال سأنزل مثل ما أنزل الله ولو ترى إذ الظالمون في غمرات الموت والملائكة باسطوا أيديهم أخرجوا أنفسكم اليوم تجزون عذاب بما كنتم تقولون على الله غير الحق وكنتم عن آياته تستكبرون. The translation is, and who could be more wicked than he who invents a lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, and who could be more wicked than he who invents a lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or says, this has been revealed unto me, i.e. saying he had a ilham, while nothing has been revealed to him. Or he who says, I too can bestow from on high the like of what God has bestowed. Right? He says, anybody who says, I have been sent a message, I have been revealed a message unto me, whereas nothing has been revealed unto him, or somebody who claims something is bestowed upon him, whereas nothing is bestowed upon him, if thou couldst but see how it will be when these evildoers find themselves in the agonies of death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, these people, you should see them while they are facing the agonies of death. And the angels stretch forth their hands and say, give up your souls, today you shall be requited with the suffering of humiliation for having attributed to God something that is not true and for having persistently scorned his messages in your arrogance. This is the verse who says, if somebody claims falsely to be the prophet of God and claims that revelation has made unto him and nothing is revealed to him, you should see him at the time of death. That's why we talk about the death of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, because it's written in Quran that such a person, death must be watched very closely. And inshallah, next time we will start with this and we will narrate the evidence from Siratul Mahdi, page 10 and 11, in part 1 of the Siratul Mahdi next time, briefly, and we will move on to another piece of evidence. So today we have talked about his real date of birth, and I believe that Qadianis should accept his real date of birth, and they should accept that his father is unknown. So if there is a question anybody wants to ask, I'm here to answer those questions, and I'll be happy to answer and show you the evidence, and Mufti Saab is there. He can show you the references. Is there any question? Now is the time to ask the question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question. When in 1974, the government has announced that these Qadiani people, they are to be considered as the minority. What is the official name written of their whatever so-called Jamaat?
I mean, the official name of what?
Of their religion in the
Qadiani?
court
Yeah, I
orders.
mean,
Oh yeah. It's called Lahori group and Qadiani group. Two names.
No. His question is different. He's saying, did they call them Muslims? If they did not call them Muslim, what did they call them? Is it right,
Correct.
Mr.
Correct.
Noor?
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I want to know what is the official written name, like they call themselves the Jamaat Ahmadiyya Muslim, but what is in the government papers?
In the government paper, they are called the Qadiani sect and the Lahori sect, or anyone who follows the Mirza Qadiani. During the 11 to 13 days of discussion with them, they were referred as Ahmadis or Qadianis, right?
Okay.
They were not referred as Muslims. Although
Okay.
the discussion
That-
was
that
around
makes sense.
the religion of Islam. Does it answer your question?
Yeah. So that's why in the book of the government, in Pakistani government, they are not being called as Ahmadi Muslims at all.
No. The word
Oh.
Muslim, they cannot use the word. Actually, the amendments of 1984 forbids them to use any Islamic terminology, including the word Muslim or Islam. And if
Okay.
anybody does, that is a criminal offense in Pakistan. And in the
Mhm.
constitution of Pakistan, they are referred as Qadiani group and Lahori group who follow Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. It does not refer them as Ahmadi Muslim or whatever they like to call them.
Okay. So I have a passage actually here. I wanted to read a verse of the Gospel of Matthew. It's in
Yes,
the
yes.
24th chapter. It's
Yes.
verse 4 and 5. I will read it. So there was a time, one time, Jesus Christ was on the Mount of Olives, and his disciples, they came around and they were asking him, "What's going to happen? What are the signs of your second coming?" So that shows one very important thing that it's mentioned in the Bible as well. He is coming, second time. When he was alive, he was telling his disciple that I'm coming. And there's one very important verse here, and I will read it for all my Christian Muslim brothers as well as for the Qadiani brothers. I feel like they are on the wrong path, and we should pray for them that they should come back to the right path. And in the 24th chapter of Matthew, and verse 4, Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many." So he's already, as I mentioned, that there will be many who came and claim they are the Messiahs. A week ago or so, yes, go ahead, please.
I want to mention a very important fact to you. In Quran, there's a verse. I've read the gospel. I can tell you that I've read Jewish, all of the Jewish Christian books, and even Hindu scripts.
awesome.
I've read all of them.
Awesome.
There is one very important fact I want to tell you. The Quran claims, "Inna hada lafi sohfil ula," sohf means newspaper. Quran says it is the same news, same teaching as was given to the people before. And then it goes on, Inna hada lafis sofilula sofi Ibrahim wa Musa. It is the teaching or the news of the Ibrahim and the Moses. He further clarifies that what does it mean that it's the same teaching as given before. What we as a Muslim believe that all prophets were giving the same teachings by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is another question whether the Bible, I have read the King George version of it, and I've read quite a few versions of Bible, but one day I asked...
What's of King James Version? King James Version.
King James
Not-
version, yeah, that's right. No, there is another version as well. That belongs to Church of England, by the way, which isn't very many people who follow that. That's probably called King George version or something like this.
That might be in the UK. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. That's a Church of England version. That's why I said in America you won't find it easily. The thing is, I asked the bishop, one of the very famous bishop, that which one is the true one. You know, his answer was very good. He said a very peculiar line I could never forget. He said, none of them is a Bible, but Bible is in them. Which simply means that even if they are different versions, there are many facts which are true in these books. That's why once you read these versions, it rhymes with the Quranic explanation as well, right? That and it rhymes with the ahadith, the tradition of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So my personal belief is that although there are many versions of that, the bishop was very right when he told me none of them is a Bible, but Bible is in them. So I don't know what do you say about this thing, but that's what I believe.
Totally understand it, and he was speaking of he spoke something bigger that the translations. Now, human did the translations. They put together the books, and English is not of one kind. We are in America here. We read the international version. Okay, so they are more like old English was like King James version, or many more. In Australia, there will be a different kind of English. Even right us in Canada, there will be a little bit different kind. So these versions means it doesn't mean that they are different kind, but they're translated according to the people so they can understand it. That was the only reason. Well, what that bishop said, I'm really agreed with him. That's really nice thing that he told you that the Bible is in there. If you look,
is right in there.
you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
a book, but it's word of God is in there. That makes it Bible. Otherwise, it's just a book, like other books. And he said something very special. I love it. Well,
Yeah.
I have one more question. If you have a little bit time to answer it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so a week ago or so, I was in one of the Qadiani broads. And when I go there, I was used to be really like, angry over there and saying something like that and just get out. So I'm these days, I'm trying to hold a conversation instead of just going there and being kicked out. So I try to hold a conversation so we can talk more. So in a conversation of last week or so, I was talking and I asked a question that one of your books written by your so-called prophet, he wrote that some bad stuff about Christ, and he was this and this and this. And after
Qadiani, you mean?
yes, exactly. And the guy was answering my question. He told me that, oh, actually, there were some Christian priests, and they were used to say bad stuff about the Prophet Muhammad, and that was the response of that. Otherwise, Mirza Qadiani, he was used to love Christ, and that's why he put his own name before him. And but unfortunately, he didn't mean it what he wrote. but that was just the response, and he was just blaming Christ. So mind my words, that he was just blaming Christ, but there was no reality in there. When somebody's blaming, that means there is no reality. It's just a blame. It's just a charge, saying something bad. So then the question arises: in case they are saying it right, that there were some priests saying bad stuff about Prophet Muhammad, is there any historical or like, in a book, any evidence that the Christian priests were saying anything bad?
Now,
How did
I'll
this
tell
go?
you the reason why he has written what he has written.
Uh-huh.
First of all, you will find in Mirza Qadiani books the statements which are 180-degree to each other. One time he says something, and other times he says exactly the opposite about that. He has written lots of that things about the Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, who is known as Jesus Christ in the Christian world. The reason
Mhm.
being was that he was schizophrenic and he was
Mhm.
drunken man. He used to drink alcohol. He used to take the opium. He used to do all sorts of addiction things which he could do possibly. So he wanted to tell the people, "Oh, accept me as a Jesus Christ," because the real Jesus Christ was far worse than me. You understand his psychology? That's
I
what
do.
that's why he said the things which he has said. And he has written even that there was no miracle performed by the Jesus Christ, whereas the Quran says exactly the opposite. Quran says he did the miracles, he made the dead alive, and he used to make the birds of the clay who would become alive. And we believe in that. But the
Mhm.
Qadianis don't believe. They say the word Quran, but they do not believe in a single word written in Quran.
I understand it. So same thing. The other day I had another conversation, and we were talking about it. I said Quran is giving a testimony for the greatness that was given to Christ, and he was doing like big time miracles. And the guy totally denied. He said, "No, no, no, that's not true." And the very next day, one of their broadcasts, one guy was saying that, "Oh yeah, Jesus was used to do this and this. He was awesome. He was kind of praising Christ." So one guy was not, other guy was praising. So I feel like these people are all confused. So their own so-called prophet, he was confused. Since you told me he had some mental conditions, so who knows? He was in they have episodes. You're a doctor. When they have episodes, they can just make anything. So he was imagining something, and in his imagination, something clicked in his mind, and he said, "Oh, okay, I'm the prophet." So that's
That
why he said,
sounds right.
"Yeah,
That's right.
right.
Anybody else who has got any questions about
Let's pick
when Mirza Ghulam Qadi? What do you think when he was born? Why don't they tell the truth about his date of birth? Whereas he himself gives a very strong historical evidence when he was born, and he says that he had his midwife to write when he was born. Why they tell lie about that? Anybody who wants to comment on that?
Actually, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
All the time, Qadiani people tells us that it is mentioned in Hadith of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that Mahdi will come in the 15th century. So they are just trying to mention. Sometime they say he born in 1835, and somewhere they say he born in 1837. Somewhere
82 as well.
1832 as well.
Yeah.
Actually, they are trying to fix Mirza Qadiani in 14th century, which is impossible.
No, they can't, because I mean that's another question. We will one day address that particular question. It's called millennial theory, and we'll do a broad on a book of Daniel and Qadiani cult. Because the book of Daniel, I think our brother Newton would know the book of Daniel is one of the famous books in Christianity, and it's a book of folk stories. Anybody else who wants to ask any question about this or word. Otherwise, Mufti Saab will say something.
Assalamu alaikum to all my Muslims brothers and sisters. Royal brother, your mic is like giving so much noise. Please, can you mute that? Okay, so I have a question, Dr. Saab. So
Yeah.
my first question is that when he claimed to be Jesus or like Messiah and prophet, so what was the reason like people got believe in his like that particularly claim? So what was the reason behind that people accepted him as a Messiah, like a fake Messiah? So can you explain that? What was the actual reason people
Yeah,
accepted him?
I've actually answered that question many a times. There's a very big historical background to it. First of all, I mean, I refer you to the PhD of Alfred Moll, who answered this question in his PhD thesis, and it's called The Ambiyat in Islam is the title of his thesis. It's from Penn University, which is called the Pennsylvania University. In his first chapter, he answered this question head on. He says, firstly, he was accepted, he was made acceptable for the people by the British rule for certain reasons to spread a fake message which would cancel certain tenets of Islam. That's what he says. Secondly, he says that even if there was no one backing him up, his personality was such that he was going to make some claim in the similar direction, either as a saint or a Mahdi or some kind of claim because of his mental state. And he clearly says he was a mentally ill person who suffered from schizophrenia. So there was no chance that he wouldn't claim to be something in the direction of religion because he studied religion while he was young, and that was stuck in his head, and he wanted to make his living out of that. So if you read that thesis and read the first chapter of that thesis, you will have a very, very clear answer. And you wouldn't say it's my opinion. Actually, I give very few opinions of my own. The facts I tell either are from Qadiani books or the very famous and credible researchers.
So
Anybody?
do you think he take all these beliefs from the holy book and from the hadith? So because everything is written in our holy book and the hadith that the Messiah, like the Jesus, will come back, and even Mahdi will come back. That's why he claimed that, because he take all those beliefs from the books, right? And the people know that.
I know what, Shoaib bhai, I know what you are trying to ask me the question. The first of all, they knew those traditions. Mirza Qadiani has altered them. Like one example is, in all the traditions of Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it says Yasaul Jaziyah, that he will remove the Jaziyah, which is a tax non-Muslims pay, and he made it Yasaul Harb, that he will stop the wars, which is untrue and against the traditions of Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he did, first of all, my own belief, and the people who have researched on his life and time can testify two things. He was not a scholar of Hadith or Quran at all. He never read them completely or even to the slightest understanding. Whatever he heard from the other people, he just added his stuff into it, and he just copied few things. Actually, they were copied by others. One of the reasons of contradiction in Mirza Ghulam Qadiani writings, or the writings which are published under his name, one of the main reasons of contradiction is they are written by multiple people. Otherwise, to my belief and the evidence I see in front of me, Mirza Qadiani was no scholar of any kind in Islam at all, and nobody actually applauded him as a scholar. And only applause we see is from two people, Sanaullah Ambasari and Maulana Muhammad Hussain Bitalvi, who asked him to change his Brain Ahmadiyya Volume 1 to Volume 4. And when he made the changes and came in line with the Islamic traditional beliefs, then they gave him the references, which is called peer review. I do not know anybody else who knew Mirza Ghulam Qadiani and gave him any good rep. all lies by the Qadianis, that he was applauded by Muslims as a scholar. That is an absolute rubbish. Anybody else?
Yeah, correct.
After any
So
comment?
we can conclude that
Yeah,
the people
by
who believe. Okay, sorry. So we can conclude that the people who believe in this false Messiah, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani, they have a lack of knowledge about Islam and Hadith and the Quran, right?
Absolutely. First of all, the Qadianis, more than 90% of the Qadianis never knew what the man was like. For him, he is a saint and he is pure than purer. Do they know actually what the man was? Absolutely not. They haven't got even the faintest idea. The man was crazy. Man said the crazy thing. He gives the evidence of his prophethood as the two sheets, one above and one below, which we believe the Isa alayhi salam will be wearing like a haram. He says the sheet above mean mental illness, Durane sar, miram mirak, and the sheet below is the feces and urine. I have never heard anybody in the world of divinity saying that the proof of them being divine is the mental illness and the feces and the urine below and mental illness above. That is the most incredible thing. And anyone who has done any decent research on Mirza Qadiani, they actually, after hearing this word, they say he is mentally ill. No prophet, not even a decent human being. I mean, he was absolutely out of order. And whenever the Qadianis realize about his actual person, what he was, they leave Qadiani. That's why we are doing this broad in English, that if you have got any concerns and you want to ask any questions about Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, it's time, and his life, will be answering your questions with references, not our say or hearsay, just the solid facts we will give you.
Dr. I have a question related to 30 fake Messiah. Our Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned that the 30 fake prophet will came. What is the number of this Mirza Qadiani in the list of 30 fake prophets?
Right. You are referring to the Tirmidhi Hadith 2219. The Hadith is إنه سيكون في أمتي كذابون ثلاثون كلهم يزعم أنه نبي وأنا خاتم النبيين لا نبي بعد. That in my ummah 30 liars will be born. Each one of them will claim to be a prophet. But I am the last of the prophet, La Nabi Shababi. There is no prophet after me. Right? And there will be 30 Dajjalin. Dajjalin are the liars, those who tell lies. Which number Mirza Qadiani is, I don't know. But he is a small Dajjal. They have been bigger Dajjal. Like he used to say he's Masih, someone like Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. But I have read many a times under the writings of many scholars of Islam, they call him Masile, Musalma, or Masile Aswad al-Ansi. He was their Masih, so you can categorize him as a Dajjal, as a liar, because there are some people who follow him. But how many, which number, I think we need a bit more research, and if you find out that, do let us know as well.
Dr. Saab, we also call him Salma Kazab Sani, Mirza Qadiani as well.
Yeah, Musalma Kazab Sani. But there is one fundamental difference one should remember. Mirza Qadiani comes from a poor family who just looted others by hook or crook. Whereas Musalma al-Kazzab was the ruler of Yamama, and his capital city was, the Yamama capital city was the same as is of Saudi Arabia nowadays. Riyadh was the capital of Yamama as well. You can imagine how big kingdom he had. He came from the tribe of Banu Hanifa. His father Habib was the ruler as well, and his great-grandfather and grandfathers were the rulers as well. So don't forget that particular difference. He is a beggar's family, Mr. Qadiani, Ghulam Qadiani, whereas Musalma was a king. But he was a liar, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him al-Kazzab. He never used any word of respect for him. That's why I'm very reluctant to use any word of respect for this man either.
Mr. Doctor, but it's very amazing. Like, how did this guy went to a toilet 100 times? Like, if I go to a toilet 3-4 times, believe me, I cannot stand up. And he say in his book that I went to bathroom every day and night 100 times. And then he made up his research room, his study room, his living room, is doing all the evil things in the toilet. So what kind of filth he was?
Now, the thing is, this is not the topic, but I'll very briefly tell you. Anyone who passes urine more than 10 times a day become incontinent of urine. And medical science is a witness to that. And he said he used to pass urine 100 times some days. So definitely his average frequency of urinating was 30 to 40 per day. And anyone who passes the urine more than 10 times a day become incontinent, which means his urine will come out and will be spilled on his clothes. Same is true for his feces as well. So if that fact is true, which is true, as many people have quoted this fact, and he himself has written, so we have to believe in that. And if we believe in that, he is the man who will be the most dirty and smelly man. And I can tell you another book, and I can give you a reference. One day a man came to him and somebody said, "Oh, this man changes his clothes every day." Mirza told him, "Oh, what kind of man are you? I change my clothes once every week." Look, the man is incontinent of urine, man is incontinent of feces and changes his clothes every week. Oh my God, I don't want to go near to this man. Anyone else with any question?
Just one last thing. Why was the young girls there to serve him, to clean his shit, day and night in his toilet room? Why was that? Who allowed that to be happen?
Firstly, they were not the young
Sorry
girls.
to interrupt you, Dr. Saab. I think we need a one seat because we have a guest down there. So if anybody can make a
I can go down.
Yeah, I mean, all right. One of our brother has gone.
We think we should leave all the time one seat available if someone come up and ask a question and if he can
अच्छा अभी हमारा जो 1 घंटे का
I think yeah, if
जी दोस्तों सिमात फरमाइए अभी हमारा
our Christian brother M. Cole, he wanna talk.
Mufti Saab is talking. I think Mufti Saab, are you saying something?
अभी 1 घंटे का जो हमारा सेशन है इंग्लिश का वो अभी ख़त्म हो रहा है तो अभी इंशाल्लाह जो गुफ्तगू है वो मुख्तलिफ ज़ुबानों के अंदर जारी रहेगी उर्दू के अंदर अरबिक के अंदर फारसी के अंदर इंग्लिश के अंदर तो ये अब फ्रीली गुफ्तगू होगी तो चूंकि हम 1 घंटे की इंग्लिश सेशन करेंगे रोज़ाना इंशाल्लाह और बकाया टाइम जो है वो जब तक डॉक्टर साहब चाहें वो ब्राड को ओपन रखें तो अभी मुझे इजाजत दीजिए रब रखा जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातहू
Mufti Saab has just said that he wants the English version abroad for 1 hour, and after that the people can speak any language they prefer. So anybody who wants to say anything else.
अच्छा जी सही हो गया अभी मैं अपने चैनल मुफ्ती मुबशर शाह के ऊपर लाइव हूँ तो हमारे ख़त्म नबूवत टाइम्स के ऊपर पहले से लाइव एक वीडियो चल रही थी तो ये हमारा सेकंड चैनल है इसको भी अभी तक जिन दोस्तों ने सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया वो कर लें कभी कभी हम इसके ऊपर भी लाइव आते हैं वैसे तो ऑफिशियली हम ख़त्म नबूवत टाइम्स के ऊपर लाइव आते हैं तो ये हमारा सेकंड चैनल है ये छोटा है अभी ज़्यादा इसके सब्सक्राइबर नहीं है तो जिन हजरात ने अभी तक इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया वो कर लें दोनों चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करके रखें ख़त्म नबूवत टाइम्स को और मुफ्ती मुबशर शाह, ये 2 चैनल अभी समझ लें कि रनिंग में है। तो इंशाल्लाह ये अभी इंग्लिश का सेशन हमने शुरू किया है, तो दुआ गो रहिएगा जनाब। रब रखा। अस्सलाम वालेकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू।
इस प्रोग्राम में शरीक मेहमान और कॉल करने वालों की आरा, मौक़िफ़ और ख़यालात उनके अपने ज़ाती हैं और ज़रूरी नहीं कि वो हमारे चैनल और टीम के ख़यालात, आरा और मौक़िफ़ की अक्कासी करें। हम किसी दूसरे फ़र्द की आरा और मौक़िफ़ के ज़िम्मेदार नहीं। ताजदारे ख़त्म नबूवत जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद। लब्बैक 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 या खातमन नबिय्यीन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम।